Hey folks, how you all doing? This is Con over coming to you with some Steel Division Normandy 44. Today's game is going to be happening in St Mere Eglise between Herr Robert over here on the left hand side. He's playing as the 4th Armored Division, and Grobi over here on the right side playing as the 12th SS Panzer Division over here on the eastern. Now, you'll notice there is no Rangroo today. It's going to be a solo cast, and in fact, I do want to kind of give a quick call out. There is another game coming on up that also features Herr Robert, but has Herr Robert as well as another player playing as the 1st Special Services Brigade that you guys should probably check on out. It's a 2v2. I just want to call out having both new or newer divisions from the Allied side there. But let's get focused on this particular game here. So, of course, the 4th Armored Division is that rather flashy and very, very powerful division that we've been seeing a lot of recently. Being very hard-hitting, I would say, across all three phases. I cannot tell you the exact composition, unfortunately, of this deck over here, mostly because we're still waiting on seeing it. I've seen an update from where on the specific replay site that tracks these particular decks, but I digress. Over here on this western side, we're going to have a lot of probably beefy rifleman squads. We are going to see very early on a couple of AA guns already coming on Alpha Herr Robert. Now remember, there are not a lot of great AA options for the Americans. In fact, that's one of the smallest sets of cards you can get in here, but having this 4 times M2HB is pretty fantastic. And you can also get that half track, the AA half track with the 37 mil and the 2 M2HBs riding sidecar. Now, on the eastern side, though, facing up against this, but of course we do have the 12th SS Panzer. Now, the SS Panzer is, well, rather good. It really can be. The problem is, you have a lot of ramp-up time, I would say, by comparison. While the 4th Armored comes on out and immediately hits hard with a lot of different opportunities, it looks maybe that Grobi's positioning over here might be a little bit more difficult to handle. Now, from a deck perspective, I can tell you he's bringing in a fairly good number of scouting and infantry troops. Of course, a lot of this infantry is not going to be coming on in until Phase B, but that's just fine. So all he really has to do is survive these first few minutes in the A phase with just 8 squads of Panzer Grenadiers. And you can see right now he's only bringing in, he only has 4 of them on this field as we speak. By contrast, over here on the western side, there's just riflemen galore. As you can see already as well, we also are going to see a very early Hellcat, and this Hellcat's going to cause a lot of issues for the 12th SS Panzer Division. I mean, there are opportunities for the Panzer Division to kind of come out hard-hitting early. I mean, we do have a Panzer Boita Firefly, we have Boita Cromwell in Phase A, we have a couple of packs as well, but that may not be enough, and even with this P2 on here as well, having the autocannon, going to get awfully close to be able to take out that Hellcat. And frankly, I don't know if people have really figured out a good strategy to facing down this armored fist. Now, going further along into the game, we had a game the other day where actually I did cast the Rangroo. And I'm sorry, speaking of the devil, actually I did have Rangroo hitting me up just now. But we had a game the other day where we saw a lot of super late game tanks appearing over here for our 12th SS player, and it was on St Mere Eglise as well. Now, on paper that sounds great. I mean, Grobi does eventually come up to 135 points, but so many of the late game tanks for the Germans are just really, really hard to bring on out. Luckily for the 12th SS, he does space out what he's looking for. He is only bringing 1 Tiger in Phase B, 1 in C, or 1 Panther in C, and 2 Panther Gs as well on the back end. So a lot of this competing just to kind of give a fairly light deck overall. I mean, just in terms of raw numbers, a good amount of infantry should be coming on in, but we're not seeing that kind of standard overwhelming half-track kind of spam they might be expecting early on. Just a couple of SPW 223s. And we're off, as we actually can see right now. Everyone's moving on forwards. Looks like the Americans are not going to be too aggressive over here. Just preferring to look on the outside of this town. And actually, I didn't realize this. We're going to have both Panzer 2Cs coming on in super, super early. So expect to see this Hellcat get a couple of great kills if he gets out from behind this rather lackluster firing position. Now, what's more, we do have a mortar half-track coming on in, and this is going to be kind of nice to pressure back, especially where he's placing it right now. To pressure back, I would say the Americans at the end of this particular town, and indeed he's going to get into action already. P2 is going to go up by itself. It's kind of hanging on out with the assistance, I guess, of one more half-track coming on in, and these guys are probably going to just get completely hammered. And P-Grunts are just kind of trooping on in and securing the middle part of this town. Meanwhile, down in the south, Riflemen is going to take something unopposed, picking up this empty territory and just start walking it on in. So a not entirely expected development. Well, the first call-ins actually for the Germans is going to be a Verbelwind. So that is pretty awesome for them. It means that's it's a quad flak Vierling on top of it with the MG34. Yes, MG34 underneath. And now keep in mind he will run through ammunition at a prodigious rate. I mean, it's only barely 3 minutes of fire overall. He only lost 3 rounds downrange. Okay, and we're back to exactly 50-50 no matter what. And a super early call-in. So a B-26B 10 Marauder. So this guy doesn't have a lot of bombs, all things considered. In fact, he has absolutely no bombs. He just has an absolute incredible amount of M2 HPs on him. And that's what you saw right now is him coming on in to drop 250 rounds down on those Germans. Now, not amusingly perhaps, but a little bit shockingly enough, all we have right now is just one bazooka up here to really push these guys back. And luckily for the Germans, he actually just might be barely out of range. Yes, he's in range to hit the half-track if he wants to see it, but he can't see it at the moment. We're going to hold steady at just a 50-50 right now, and I think neither player really wants to go and be too aggressive. I think both sides are just going to kind of, well, keep things a little bit easy going. You see right now the Verbelwind in what, maybe a second or two of firepower, 100 rounds got cooked off very, very quickly. Some more infantry being brought on in. This is a decent call right there. And Hellcat not really moving over here. I am a little bit annoyed by that. I don't like that very much. In the meantime, mortar half-track comes up to the north, tries to drop rounds on top of that bazooka, and will probably do pretty well. Honestly, if he gets 1 or 2 rounds on target, those guys are dead, and that's a complete and total wipe, and that's a big, big loss, I would say. If any Americans want to hold on to their lives over here on the northern side. But no, exactly 50-50, which is supremely impressive to me. We are going to see Rifles going to make a tentative push forwards, but this half-track coming in back in return. Do you want to count the number of P-Grunts that we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have, what, about 65%? No, 57% or so of all P-Grunts coming on in. And both Pack 38s being brought on in rather early. I'm not sure I understand exactly why, but I can kind of assume, I suppose. And that is a very, very good call. Wow, it's actually almost reading a mind here. As we are going to see Creighton Abrams coming on in. That's of course the unique tank for Herr Robert. Robowind's down 400 rounds already. And looks like the Germans are making a tentative push into this town. Now, P2 is not really that close right now. And indeed, it's just P-Grens trading fire with rifles. And as they get closer and closer, that mortar half-track is going to cause quite a bit of suppression. You see right now, that's one getting pinned already. Which leaves me a little bit concerned because those rifles right now, well, they do have the BAR, but it's not the LMGs that you really want to have. But this Marauder getting a surprising amount of strafing runs on in here and enforcing back one of those P-Gren squads. So very well done there. Now, where's he expecting to go? Okay, right about here. So I don't think he's going to get... No opportunities right there to get line of sight on either of those vehicles from the German side. And the second that he comes on in, I would imagine we are going to see this Pack 38 rotate further up to the north. And P-Guns are going to get outshot by this rifles, though not comfortably, just a little bit barely. Shockingly enough, though, we're still at 50-50. I kind of like this. Neither play is really being kind of stupidly aggressive. They're not going to push it too much. Though, as of right now, we are seeing that the American front line is starting to crumble a little bit, at least here in the center. Might even get another 51 over here for the Germans. Not yet. Herr Robert refuses to actually lose any sort of pressure. And this P2 coming on in, going to force a fallback. But will also signal a approach by Abrams, and Abrams will get a nifty little side shot on the P2 if no one changes the status quo. Now, another B-26 Marauder being called on in early, and this is kind of surprising. This is a little bit too much investment into an Air Force early on, especially considering what the B-26B brings onto the battlefield. Now, it's great, of course, to completely stress out and pin down some of that infantry, but considering the amount of it's costing, I'm not sure that's really the greatest idea. So rotating back to the north to see if we can see something coming out from the Abrams. No, we're not going to. Instead, we're going to see a 6th squad of P-Guns coming on in. And this mortar is for some reason shooting rounds up into the middle of nowhere. 60 mil stovepipe has been brought on by the Americans. And frankly, if it shells anywhere near the middle part of town, it's going to cause a lot of hefty damage, I would say, against the Wehrmacht on this one. Now, I do want to take a quick look at line of sight. Grobi sees practically nothing. He knows there's a mortar here, and that's it. It's worth knowing he's brought in absolutely no... What term am I looking for here? No recon units whatsoever, but his opponent is similarly blind, which is amusing and yet sad at the same time. Now, Mortar's trying to find the middle part of town. He's going to get one round off, and then he's going to get stressed out. There we go, stress out. And now we have both Robofins early on being brought on in. I think that's the entire Robofin complement for the Germans. As an Opel Blitz comes in to refill this Robofin as well as this half-track, that's getting some good action, really, all things considered. Now, we're still 3 minutes away from Phase B, and I'm kind of curious. Okay, we are going to finally see this Hellcat rotate around, and that thing, again, it has that beautiful, beautiful 1.2 kilometer range, and that's the 76 millimeter upgun. That is a deadly, deadly beast. And I guess Grobi's a little bit tentative. He doesn't want to be too aggressive, because he knows that the Hellcat is definitely there. And now bringing in some more indirect firepower, it looks like the 4th Armored's getting itself prepped for a push here. Yep, my guess they're going to go through the trees, hit the lower part of the town right about here and right about here. But that's still not going to be particularly easy. And indeed, if we see the Robofin kind of rotate a little bit further forwards, say perhaps on the southern side of this town, first of all, he will put himself in pretty easy range of that Hellcat, but it will give him a lot more opportunity to throw fire downrange. Now, the reason this is kind of surprising me so much, the way that this game's opening, not just because of the tentative nature of it, but also because there is, well, in my mind, kind of an inversion of what I expected here. I expected the 4th Armored to be supremely aggressive, and we might be starting to see whispers of that right now, forcing back some of these P-Grens, I imagine, pretty quickly. Pinning them down, at least, if nothing else. Got 2 pinned down, another one falling back. And where's that last new one that kind of came on in? I guess that's this dude right here, or this one right here. But I expected a lot more aggression coming out from the Americans. And we are going to see some of those probably Marauders coming on in with the anti-vehicle opportunities. But then again, considering the way that neither player is really using recon whatsoever, maybe that's completely wrong. We'll see. Now, B-26 does get forced back, and that's going to be much better for the Germans than it is for the Americans. Obviously, the Americans want that overflight opportunities here. Also worth noting that the rifles are down to just 70 rounds of ammunition here. Rifle squad does go down the center part of town, or just outside the center part of town. But these P-Guns are not doing too well either. They are a shell of what they used to be. One squad getting taken out there. Another P-Guns being forced out to different sides of the town. Now, getting inside this house right here will hold down the center part of this crossroads. But overall, not wonderful, as the Americans continue to build steam and make cavalry being brought on in. And I could have sworn I did see a recon squad or two being brought in as well, but it appears not. Instead, we're actually going to get rifle leaders. One to the north, right in the center part of the field, obviously. And that's going to be a lot better for not a sagging American attack, but one that's had a lot of issues really fighting the stress that this particular half-track is putting on down. He's full back up. He's a couple hundred rounds down, not a big deal. But as we see now, M8 Cavalry is rotating on in. Now, is he going to be in range of this P2? Yes, he is, I would think. Yeah, 1,000 meters. If he can see him, we'll be able to shoot him. But the problem is that neither player seems to have a really good idea about where the opponent is, and neither one really wants to be too aggressive about it either. Now, there's Panzerwaffe coming on in. Now, this is going to be a terrifying opportunity. And Grobi's got 3 of these in his deck. So expect to see this western part of town just explode into a welter of fountaining earth and death. What's more, we are going to see this mortars taking more firepower from the half-track, and it doesn't seem that either player is really looking... Oh, excuse me, the Americans are really looking to throw down fire at the German indirect fire. They just want to take the center part of town, which is, I guess, completely understandable. Now, where are you rotating to? To right about there. And just as a reminder, guys, 1,600 meters of range. That's a pretty decent spot right there, right? Now, I mentioned to you before as well that the Germans do have a good chunk of infantry, and a lot of that's being brought on in now. I do want to get this Panzerwaffe barrage, though, too, because I imagine all these guys right here are going to get completely stressed very quickly. Pinned down. Might even get taken out. Not quite yet, but these rifles, wowee. But on return, there's a P-38 Lightning coming on in. Oh, no, he's just going for the center part of town. Or is he? No, he's actually looking for that Pak-38. So we are going to see recons, excuse me, not those kind of marauders that I was expecting to see the AT. No, we just have straight-up recons. And finally, for the first time, it might be the head Robert is going to see a good part. Nope, never mind. I thought it would be a good part of the German defense, but I'm incorrect there. Germans see absolutely nothing. You know, a little bit's down here to the south, but that's about it. And indeed, bringing in a 222 to pin down these rifles over here to the west. That might even allow the Germans to make a slight push here. Now, Opel Blitz is coming on in. Pioneers are going to do great work, I would say, against these rifles. Now, if the M8 does come in, that's a bit of a problem. But these Pioneers, and there are going to be 12 of them in Phase B coming on through, this should allow the Germans to push the Americans out of town. Now, hold it, that'd be a different thing altogether, but to push them out of town's the first part. However, this M8 has something to say about it, and indeed, he can frustrate this entire push. Let alone the fact that his Pioneers are going to all get stressed out by this mortar. Is the P2... Oh, he's exchanging fire with infantry down there. And the Pak-38 gets taken on out. Worth seeing. Okay. Marauders are back in again, folks. And we're back to 50-50. It looked at, for half a second or two, it looked like the Germans are threatening a push out of that town, but it did not happen. And indeed, we're going to see engineers coming back the other direction by Herr Robert. And with those demo charges, unless they can get stressed, that entire squad is dead. This squad right here. No, they're falling back, just barely in time. So they get out before that satchel charge explodes. And that's very good awareness right there by Grobi. Neither player might be taking this positioning here, but great awareness. Now, SD4419, this is the vehicle that brought on in that Pioneer Führer. And forgive me for not mentioning it's a Pioneer Führer as opposed to P-Grand Führer. But this thing has a very good gun. It's, what, 70? Yep, it's a 75 mil. I wasn't 100% sure, but it's a 75 mil. Now, the problem with that is that this Hellcat's on the prowl, and I think he's going to try to get some sort of sneaky shot down the boulevard. But that would require him, of course, to get much closer. And at that point, I imagine this P2 can do some hefty work. But again, neither player seems to be too concerned about pushing on forwards. Looks like the Americans just, again, massing more troops in the center part of the field here. Oh, wow. That's a very aggressive attempt. They're going to try to push into the center of town. This is going to be absolutely brutally horrible. And as one goes down already. Crew does get killed, get picked on off. Was that a shot from you? Yes, it was. The Hellcat does take out that 251 half-track. But there are 2 more that can get brought on in. And now that Panzerwaffe is firing again. He's going to stress out the back part of that. And indeed, yep, he blows apart the 2 trucks. Not that it kills anybody of the squads, but he forces 4 squads back. So a good opportunity right now for the Germans to make a push. The question is, will they? Oh, wow. He's actually bringing a Jagdpanzer on super, super early. So he's got 2 they can bring in Phase B. And he's trying now, I think, to curve around the southern side. He does have to watch out for the second Hellcat being brought on in. And the question really is, how many Hellcats does Herr Robert have in this deck? I'm actually kind of surprised we're not seeing a Stuart spam or a even a Sherman spam, although I would much more rather see a Stuart more than anything else. And just, it boggles my mind that the, what you call it, B-26 is being used as a ground attack plane. It's just, it's so strange. Jagdpanzer trying to get a shot at that Hellcat, does not get an opportunity to, and he's just going to continue to get stressed out here as B-26 just continues to make a lot of issues. But Verbal Vince, how many does he have in this deck again? He's got, okay, he can bring in 2 more in this phase. Worth noting. But again, we continue to be exactly 50-50. Neither player wants to push on in. And there's a lot of material here. I don't get why either side is being quite this tentative. But it is worth mentioning that Grobi is playing the 12th SS on an appropriate fashion here, which is, don't get bogged down so much with your vehicles in the town. You can move around the outskirts of it. However, even as I say that, though, he's going to be bringing on in 4 more squads of infantry. One of which is a P-Grunt squad. You can see in his deck he's got 8 P-Grunt squads for Phase B total. Each of those guys have themselves a Star of Veterancy. And he's being gutsy, I would say. Pioneers pushing on out, trying to get and push back against this forest right here. This little clump of trees might be able to do it, but I'm not sure if you can see the forest for the trees. It'd be a very interesting opportunity. Pin down and pin down. So a very quick push could take both these guys out into surrender, but not going to happen. B-26 now comes in for another run. And now we're going to see ME-109 making a gun run as well. And there goes that B-26. Panzer in the meantime is still reloading it from its last barrage. And there, oh no, he fired over here on the southern flank, trying to pick up maybe a couple of those Hellcats. Wasn't able to, though. And at long last, we are going to see it's a 105 Sherman being brought on in. And was that a Stuart? Yes, we see the first, the M5 Stuarts as well. But the 105 Shermans, with all its infantry in such close proximity, we have a beautiful opportunity for indirect firepower. Just do incredible amounts of damage. And with the 105 kind of point and shoot, that is something to be afraid of. However, these Pioneers are not worried about it. They say, you know what, we don't want to be behind these buildings. We are creating Fortress Europa on our own. Another Panzerwaffe barrage going on through takes out a Rifleman command squad over here, and that's a decent loss right there. Not having, I didn't realize that he brought a second one in. Not having that veterancy could be quite a liability. However, another B-26 coming on in, he might get forced back super quickly. That's fine. Even if the ME-109 gets pushed away as well. Keeping that B-26 ground run, well, strafing runs to a minimum, will pay dividends for the Germans. However, losing P-Grunt squad in the meantime, Mortar half-track is going to throw rounds down range, and again, continues to force back, or at least freak out, a lot of Herr Robert's infantry here. Now, 60 mil. This guy's not been doing a whole lot. Where's he going to be aiming right now? Looks like he's going for the center part of town again? Probably not. Let's take a quick look at vision. And this is probably the area I have the biggest beef with both players, so that they don't really have a great idea. Stewart was down the south, got picked off, looked like, by this Pack 38. My biggest beef with this particular play so far is that neither play's doing a lot of work in terms of recon. I realize I'm focusing on the town an awful lot, and it's surprising to me to see both kind of mechanized divisions throw their troops in a meat grinder here in the center part of town, and in keeping it so even. I'm stunned that it's as even as it is right now. Coming up to Phase C in about 47 seconds, another Jagdpanzer being brought on in, and that's the balance, I think, of the anti-tank. Let's see, 1, 2, yep. So we have one in the south, one in the north. He's putting all of his eggs into a couple of baskets here. Yep, both these guys are reloading. Where's this next barrage going to go? Oh, he's firing already. He doesn't give him much time to relax. No, he's just going to start to try to find maybe that half-track? It'd freak it out, certainly. Doesn't take it out, though. Pioneers, in the meantime, going on down, courtesy of those engineers. and neither player is continuing to have any luck really at this. Hellcat over here keeps peeking on in and out, trying to find a shot on that Jagdpanzer, but the Jagdpanzer, well, he's able to get that mortar half-track at long last, even as the Pioneers do go down in the meantime. I really am stunned by how little of a score there's been so far. Now, armor rifles in the meantime come on, and these guys do have Zooks, which gives them an excellent opportunity to take out this P2 that's been marauding around the town since the beginning of the map. But that's not going to happen, and instead we're going to see Pioneers get close enough, and I think they're going to get a Botaledum. Not quite yet. P38 in the meantime might get taken on out, and yes, there he goes. ME-109 getting himself some great kills. And more Pioneers, another P-Gun squad coming on out. I'd love to see a rush coming on in to take out these armor rifles. Because at range, at this range anyway, the rifles aren't slouches. I mean, they're not going to be as good as going up against either the Leichte MG34, nor even close range with those MP40s. But the Pioneers could have ended this a while ago, and trying to fight right here, right now, in this particular position, is not a great idea. Meantime, things are bouncing up and down here. Looks like, yep, that poor guy did go down. Hellcat's picking on off that Jagdpanzer. Well, the north we're not seeing a whole lot of action here. So let's rotate back down to the south for a couple minutes. And indeed, we're into phase C now. So, question is, are we going to see early, quick Panthers being brought on in? As a reminder, of course, those are 280 points apiece. And wow, we're actually going to see a ton of Hellcats. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 Hellcats already, and a fifth one. So rotating around here and there. Half track goes down. This Stuart finally getting a little bit of damage positively for his own side. And nope, we're just going to see a, what is that, a Flak 41? Yes, we're seeing an 88mm coming on out. Which is, it's brutal, don't get me wrong. But, you know, not really the biggest killer right now. With both players being so considerate, let's say, of the other side's abilities here. Oh, we're finally going to see 51-49, so for the first time in, what, 15 minutes, we're finally starting to see a score here. And it looks like the Americans are really developing an attack. Hellcats being brought on in here and hither and thither, as well as the infantry moving on forwards. And it looks like the Germans are starting to fight their own personal battle of the Bulge here. As the Americans, well, they continue to just kind of hunker on down. Abrams, who hasn't really gotten a whole lot of action so far, he's fired off a couple of rounds of his machine gun, and that's it. I guess he's just kind of waiting over here in preparation. M8 Cavalry comes on around and gets taken on out, courtesy of the Jagdpanzer. And it even looks like they're going to... Okay, so they're going to stabilize minorly. So we're back to 50-50. And the Axis does have 10 tickets, but they have 10% of the tickets of their opponents right now, which is a little bit amusing to me. Yowza. And the other Flak 41's being brought over here to the north. So that is all the anti-air that exists for Grobi's deck. He is, what, one artillery piece away from calling in all of his artillery. He's not calling in any of his recon right now, and that's really been the biggest beef I've had with him so far. Then, of course, again, neither player's really been that aggressive about using their recon. And for that matter, it doesn't look like they even know a lot of where their opponent's positions are. You can see that happening, some blundering here and there. Now, engineers do take a very, very big surprise from these Pioneers, but they do manage to take them out in return. And these armored rifles are being kind of gutsy here. 88mm, though, is going to put that right to bed. A couple of quick rounds, and these guys get pinned on down. As well noting, though, that we have this WC-52, so it's dropped off its cargo, and it's continuing to troop on in and out. And this guy is depleted. He's being brought on in to refill that Panzerwaffe. And I guess the other Panzerwaffe did go down here to the south. Yes, it did. And finally, the Tiger E from Phase B is being brought on in. So I'm surprised that we haven't seen the Boita Firefly at all. I would have thought that would have gotten called on in very early to start contesting a lot of this material. And there is another 251-9. And that's to support the northern flank, which is not sagging badly, but just enough to be an issue. Now, we would like to see a nice little cavalry charge down here in the south in the 4th Armored. If you could get in push this area right here. Yeah, he's going to lose a little bit to this Flak 41. Throw a half-track or two out front as an opportunity, and then just pelt the ever-living bejesus out of it with Hellcat and Stuart rounds. It would be more than enough, I would think, to really take the cake. But he's not doing that, unfortunately. And indeed, we are going to see this Flak 41 being very aggressive, trying to get on in towards all this infantry. And going to take some negative attention here. With the assistance now, the 232 down here. I was going to call it 222, but a 232 down here. Should be able to push this guy back. Then we creep back again towards a 50-50. This is just nice, slow play from both sides. It allows you to really see the raw numbers you can bring in from both sides. Now, worth noting that Grobi's had, I would say, probably marginally poor squad preservation, and I think that the end game kind of kills will definitely bear that out as well. But it's worth noting that neither players really made that many egregious errors, or really any egregious errors. They've been very cautious about moving on in, and I kind of salute both of them for that. Pioneer Fuhrer should be hopping out anytime soon? No, he's already done that. Okay, so he's bounced on to the front. And I do like this call bringing in more Pioneers, specifically because of St Mere Eglise. Wow, that was fast. Having those towns is definitely worthwhile. Having the Pioneers, definitely worthwhile to reducing some of the structures in town. The last Pio Fuhrer being brought on in, and that's the end, almost I would say, of its infantry as well. Flak 41. Well, we are going to see, of course, that Hellcat was able to take out a German half-track, essentially. I mean, that's not any kind of bit of surprise. But it's been a very quiet map overall, and I can kind of understand why. I mean, at this point, you've been playing to keep the game so very tight, and you don't want to be stupidly aggressive now and kind of blow it. Wow. Okay, Hellcat went down courtesy of that Flak 41, but he did take a lot of damage in the meantime. He's down to just one squad member. But killing that Hellcat might be signal to shift on in. Oh, no. Excuse me, that was the Panzer that did that. Did the dirty deed there. ME-109 coming in heedless of his own safety. I think it's the one from Phase B. He's got two 2-star ones as an opportunity here. And we're back to 50-50 yet again. Oh, yikes. So Stuart throwing around at that SDF-KZ. Sieben. Now, where's that early air cover? That's been for quite a bit of time, but it's not really done anything, which is kind of shocking for me. Stuart is beginning to rotate, and this is the beginning of Stuart spam. I can't say for sure, but what I can say for sure is that we have this M7 coming on out, and he's trying to find that 88 to the north. And I tell you what, he should be able to. But we're getting closer and closer to the time I want to go just kind of press just a move everything at the same time. The guys just attack like crazy. Yikes. So Tiger is in the fray down here, and I imagine he should be able to start pinging off anything he wants to. P-38 Lightning trying to stress him out, and will force the fallback. And P-Grant, getting taken out as well. So we could see a dive to take out this Tiga. The driver has been knocked out for 3 more seconds. So the closer you get with this, the deadlier it could be for... Yep, and there it goes. Hellcat does take him on out. Meanwhile, to the south, the Panzer does get his own damage, taking out that aggressive Stuart. But trading his Stuart for a Tiger, that's a beautiful, beautiful trade. That's one I'd make any day of the week and twice on Saturdays. Panzer for the meantime reloading. 222 down to the south. He's just has a few hundred rounds of machine gun ammo left, and that's going to see him killed in just a moment here, I'd imagine. Not least because there's a Hellcat waiting behind this next tree line. Now, the Germans are trying to show signs of life here. They're bringing in pretty much the last bits of infantry that they do have. Now, unfortunately for them, they're getting borne down by just sheer dint of numbers, I would say. With these half-tracks trooping on in, and cavalry scouts, they can be firing a bazooka whenever they wanted to here. Aligning, and zooks away. And yep, there goes a very, very good piece of equipment for the Germans. What's more, this Hellcat's going to start to pick off vehicles to the north. Huh. No, he's more concerned about that Flak 41, and I can't say that I blame him. Now we're going to see another tank being brought on in, and yes we do. There's a Panther being brought on in for the Germans. I'm seeing a bailout happen here. There was another Stuart going on down. Courtesy, yep, this Jagd Panzer has been the biggest, probably, producer of the German war machine this last 10-15 minutes here. In terms of raw point value, maybe not the most efficient overall, but he's done pretty well for himself. 3 stars of veterancy, it does so well. And the only thing we haven't seen so far, really, is a recon squads from the Germans. I'll tell you what, though, we're going to see ourselves another Panzerwaffe barrage. Question is where? Yikes. Well, Hellcat did lose the duel over here with the Flak 41. And that's just another man who did not manage to take down his own target. I'm really curious to see where this goes on out. Well, we're not going to find out for a couple seconds more. Jeez, that reload takes forever. Check that out. 3 rounds a minute. Yeah, okay. Yikes, that reload takes, yeah, flipping forever, man. 3-minute cooldown between barrages. A Jeep goes on down, but we see the beginning of a Stuart spam, and we see Creighton Abrams coming on forward as well. Stuart's deploying to the south, one to the south. Oh no, all 3 to the north. And he's looking to take out this push over here. Might be able to stress out some of them, but this P-Grunt squad is going to be pretty much freaked out by himself. Although he does stress out pretty much everything here with this BEF Panther coming on in Befehle. There's one half-track. Question is, can this Hellcat see? Can the Hellcat see? I don't know. I don't know, but what I can tell you is that these Panther's going to find his claws going unwetted, unsharped, or unsomethinged. They're not going to be used very much, let's put it that way. And the Hellcat, in the meantime, just throwing a couple machine gun rounds up at this strafing ME-109. The Germans now getting a 51-49 and slowly digging their way out of the gutter here. They are only down a couple hundred tickets, though it's not, you know, by virtue of being 1,000. No, sir. Of course, this is literally just a couple hundred tickets. And a couple of recon squads going on down in the meantime, and the Germans begin to solidify their position. P2 does die in the north, though, so we'll see that entire area being given away. Verbelfind is trying to stress out the M5A1. I would not do that. Time for you to run, my good sir. He's not doing it. 1 round comes on target, and that Verbelfind is quite dead. For right now, he seems to be living the life. Befehle tank Panther does take another Stuart. 88 goes on down, and that's a big loss. Again, that's 50% of his heavy anti-tank here. And now a bounce happening against that Verbelfind. So back to 50-50, and we're coming down near to the end of this particular game. And there goes the Verbelfind, the poor guy. This other Panzerwaffe barrage, well, he's ready to come back in for another one. Another Panther G being called to the north. So we have a Befehle down to the south, and a Panther G to the north. And this Befehle is by himself. He is holding down the fort for the moment, and he's like the last couple of infantry squads left for the Germans. And indeed, with the Hellcats beginning to move on in, now we see the violence inherent in the system. As the Hellcats begin to start lofting rounds into the town, we have this mortars lofting rounds, we have this M7, which continues to be an issue here and there. And there's just too many little kiddies. This Panther by himself cannot take these all on. They just can't. What's more, now that we're seeing the mailed fist of the armor being brought on in, I would be very, very surprised to see a resurgent SS division. But that's the perils of playing the 12th SS. You have not the easiest of times early on. I mean, most Allied divisions outsupply you very quickly. And only now having a 5-ticket bonus here. Yes, I mean, these late game tanks are great. You can see this Panther taking out another Stuart to the north. But when your opponent can spend and buy multiple tanks tier 1, it's not going to be easy. Of course, as I say that, then we're also going to see a very, very quick push. We're trying to take out the southern flank and might be able to do so. Nope, never mind. Panther does take out the Hellcat. Excuse me. Hellcat takes out the Panther is what I meant to say. And that's the end of that particular push. Hellcat might be able to take out. Nope, not quite. Track's broken. Okay, so we have 3 Hellcats picking on this poor innocent half-track. Yeah. This is the death of the southern flank for the Germans. Though, bizarrely enough, this half-track is taking more rounds to kill than that Befehle Panther. And we're beginning to see the 12th SS run on out of materials, and this is the other problem with the 12th SS, is they don't tend to have a lot of extra cars to utilize here and there. I mean, they have great late game tanks, but they're stupidly expensive, and they require to use them perfectly. So while the 12th SS, I guess, could be theoretically viable against the 4th Armored, the deck can't be structured like this. I would say probably go a little bit earlier. That Boy to Firefly could have helped very early on. Yes, it's 200 tickets. I rather would have brought that on in as opposed to waiting for that Tiger E later on in Phase B. P-38 Lightning coming on in. Where's he going for? He's looking to push back that Panther, and will nearly freak it on out. So, positive again there. And now the Germans starting to crumble. 56-44, we're seeing more territory taken in just about 45 seconds here than we saw for a very long time. For the rest of the, really for the rest of the game. And that Boy to Firefly, again, take a look at this. So 16 and 11. This could have been such a brilliant thing to be bringing in early, as opposed to spending 40 more points, really just for a little bit more armor. And certainly faster. 25 off for 63 on. More than enough to deflect, I would say, the Hellcats for the earlier part of the game. Now, Germans are going to try to push back and take a couple of these positions here, but Grobi just throws in the towel, says, forget it, guys, this is over. And really it is. At the end of the game, you can definitely see that begin to be borne on out. So with a super, super low-scoring game of 456 to 85, Herr Robert does take the victory. And the KD doesn't, in my mind, adequately showcase really how close this game seemed to be for a very long time. 31-50 to 19-30, 1,000 points difference. Kills overall. Don't see. Ooh, this Stuart right over here. I think this is the guy that's pushing into the center part of the field. I could not tell you for sure. Hellcat, this guy was the one who was to the south. He did a good job taking out several hundred points. What's that? 3, 4, 5, like 550 or so? Probably a little more than that, about 550 or 600 from right there. So Hellcat doing a great job there. And another Stuart doing work. And again, I'm surprised that wasn't just more of a Stuart spam. There was a Hellcat spam. And I can understand that, I suppose. I mean, those things are very, very good, even with the paper-thin armor that they have. But in my mind, bringing in the multiple Stuarts at a better option, a cheaper option, and certainly could have had a higher desired outcome. Now, Yacht Panther to the south. This guy was a beast for a bit of time. 1-2, so that's 130 points right there. Yeah, so he did pretty well for himself as well. And it's Tiger E. That's the only other real killer. Flak 81. Yeah, 41 rather. Panther. Yeah. So not a lot to be said here. A very, very, I would say, calm game. Neither player really wanted to rushing overly too much. And indeed, it kind of felt like I was watching two players channeling the spirit of Montgomery. Of, good old Marshal Bernard Montgomery. At the end of the day, Herr Robert just had more resources to call on, and he drove that end home against Grobi. So congratulations to Herr Robert. Bad luck to Grobi. And folks, I will see you all next time. This has been great having you all here. My name is Conor, and I'll see you guys all soon. Take it easy.